Ladies and gentlemen, this is Infinity, coming at you today with a little bit of a special video. See, as of 2 days ago, The Elder Scrolls is now 25 years old. That is a long time for a game series to be going under the same company, and by the same developers, and by the same publishers. And yet, the game series is still going as strong as it has over 25 years ago, when it first came out. And I don't know about you guys, but regardless of whatever Bethesda is doing right now, and how they're handling things, and how much heat they're under, I still love this series. I love it so much, and I'm not just kissing its ass for whatever, God knows whatever reason people might come up with. I love this series, and I'm here to tell you today why I got into it in the first place. This is my story of how I got into the Elder Scrolls, and why I love the Elder Scrolls after all this time of having it, and playing it, and logging thousands upon thousands of hours into it. So for a couple of minutes, come with me. Come with me, Eternal Champions. Lend me your ears, Agents, Nerevarines, Champions of Cyrodiil, and Dragonborns, as well as Soulless ones. Come with me as I go back a little bit, and re-explore an early part of my life in which I discovered the Elder Scrolls. And I'll tell you exactly why I love this franchise very, very much. Yeah, so I remember it very well. It was a Christmas morning in the year sometime around the late 2000s. And I remember running down the steps on Christmas morning, sometime around 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning, and running over to the tree. And I remember specifically getting excited about the game case shaped presents because I knew they were video games. And I remember opening up all the other presents first on purpose, and then finally getting to those ones and opening up those presents last. I opened them up, and I think I remember getting like Prototype, a Borderlands, the pre-sequel, or Borderlands 2, one of the two. And then the last one I opened was the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Game of the Year Edition for the Xbox 360. And I was like, what is this? Is this like that new Skyrim game that was announced? And he's like, or my grandpa, I should say. He looked at me and he said, yeah, I believe that's the one that... He thought it was Skyrim, but Skyrim hadn't come out yet. I think it was just announced. Or it was that year. I'm not entirely sure. All I remember is that my grandpa thought he had gotten me Skyrim. And instead I had gotten Oblivion. And I was fine with that because I was like, oh, it was the previous game in the franchise. So I ran downstairs into the basement where my little gaming area was, and I plugged it into the Xbox 360, and I loaded it up, and I downloaded all the content for it off the disc, because back in the day you had to download DLC for the Game of the Year editions off of the discs that came with the Xbox 360 disc, because we didn't really have that much internet, and I had never tinkered with Xbox Live yet, or whatever nonsense. And I remember it so well. I remember that theme opening up. I remember seeing the map of Cyrodiil rolling around as the Oblivion title. And I remember at the time thinking, oh, this is cool. I loaded up a new game, and I was met with none other than the Patrick Stewart voicing Uriel Septim.
I was born 87 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor.
And him introducing me to him and his life and how he had ruled for 87 years over the province of Tamriel, and how he was the emperor. And it struck me so well because I still remember the first time I watched that intro. I just loved how he touched the emperor, the amulet of kings around his neck, and it glowed, and it was just so interesting. Now I know this isn't that interesting, but I'm getting to the best part because I just love that intro. My favorite part to this date is the ending part where he's like, this is the 27th of last seed, the year of Akatosh, 433. These are the closing days of the third era.
And the final hours of my life.
And the music plays, and the fanfare begins, and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, this is so cool, I can't wait to play this story. And I had not even touched, that wasn't even like the best part, because if you guys definitely don't know this, but at the time I had never, ever played an open world game before. I had created my character, which I had never done that before. I thought, oh cool, I could create my own character. I've never done that. Go through the dungeon. You all know, you've all played Oblivion, hopefully. If you have not, I would recommend it. It's my favorite of the Elder Scrolls franchise. And I remember getting through the sewers and making it out into the world of Tamriel, and I'm greeted by this colorful, beautiful, open world. And I was confused. Because this is the thing about the Elder Scrolls that makes it so well done, is that it's not just this game where you're told, go here and do this. Yeah, sure, you are told. But it's not like every other game. It wasn't like the games I was used to, like Call of Duty or Halo, or I don't know, Borderlands or whatever. You could go wherever you want and do whatever you want, and that concept was just alien to me. See, I have only ever, up to that point, experienced very linear game design and storytelling. A very straightforward point A to point B, go out, go to there, kill the enemies in between you and there, get the item, collect the items, there you go. But when I exited those sewers for the first time, I was so confused and lost, because I wasn't shown a path, I wasn't shown anything or any indication of where to go. Messages popped up and told me where I should go, and there were markers and all that, but I just saw this big open world, this lake with a ruin in the distance and a dock in front of me, and a path leading me up the right shore. But part of me was like, what? Like, I was lost. I didn't know where to go. I looked and I found the menus, and I eventually found my way to the map, and I was like, so I'm here, but I gotta go all the way over there? And I'm like, well, how far? So I thought to myself, well, I won't fast travel, I'll walk. So I started walking and walking and walking, and I was like, wait a minute. And I realized I just made it through the entire city on the other side, and I was like, how far away is this place? And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And I had an idea. Me and my 10 to 12-year-old self was just sitting there, and I was like, wait a minute. And I started running in a random direction. And I just started running. I didn't stop. I didn't look around. I just started going and going. And I was waiting for the game to stop me. And it never did. It only ever stopped me when I reached the map limit. And that was so far. I had been running, I think, for like an hour, or maybe not an hour, but for a very long amount of time. I wasn't counting. I just know I had been running for a while. I had killed some wolves. I had found a bunch of enemies like goblins and stuff, and I was like exploring a cave, and I found a dungeon and an old fort that was abandoned, and there was like, I eventually found like some old village and a town, and it was just so cool. My younger self's mind was just blown. There was no limitations. I could go wherever I wanted and do whatever I wanted, because I found quests, and I was like, I can do other things other than the main story. It was so mind-blowing. I couldn't believe it. I was so amazed. And to this day, I wish I could experience that all over again and re-experience playing Oblivion for hundreds of hours when I was little. I remember trying to tell my friends how good this game was, and at the time, almost anybody I talked to, it was just starting to get into Skyrim. This was just after I had like really started to open up to people about video games. And I think Skyrim had just come out, and people were all talking about Skyrim. No one had ever played Oblivion though. So I eventually got Skyrim, and I played Skyrim, and I was like, this is awesome too. And I played Skyrim for, I think, longer, if not longer than Oblivion. And that game was also amazing to me when I was younger. And as I grew older, I eventually got into the Fallout franchise. I played Fallout New Vegas, which is still one of my favorite games, probably next to Skyrim and Oblivion. Is probably one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, with just how well done it is. And I played Fallout 3, which was also amazing, especially with all the great DLC it had. And then I eventually had Fallout 4 come out, and of course everybody played that. And then I got a computer. I tried to play like Morrowind, and then I played Arena, and I played that through completely for a review. And I have played Daggerfall extensively as of late. And the franchise throughout the last 10 years of my life has been probably one of the most impactful franchises I have ever played in gaming. And I still, every time I go through an open world game that calls itself an RPG, I try to compare it back to the first time I have ever played Oblivion. And I try to see, do I feel as excited as I did back then? Because don't get me wrong, I know there are games like Witcher, and I know there are games like I don't know, the new Cyberpunk that's coming out, and Borderlands, and games like Dark Souls, and it's just, I always compare it to the first time I played Oblivion, with that sense of exploration, with that feeling of you can do whatever you want because it's your game, it's your character, it's your story, and you get to make it. Sure, there's a role you play, but outside of that, what will you do? What guilds will you join? What quests will you complete? What classes will you play as? What magics will you look into? What weapons will you wield? What skills will you have? Will you be a merchant? Will you be a warrior? Will you be a barbarian, a wizard, a warlock, a thief, an assassin? That's the beauty of the Elder Scrolls, is it's your game. And it's so well done. It's not perfect. I'm sure there are some games in the franchise that not everybody likes. Some people have a problem with Skyrim, that's fine. Some people have a problem with Oblivion. Some people, like myself, have a problem with Morrowind. But if you're a real fan, I hate to say that like that, but if you're a real fan, you'll have respect for every game in the franchise because you know that they're all different slices of the same pie. Each game is unique. Arena was the step in the door, your introduction to the world, and Daggerfall was a follow-up that made you feel like you were a real person within that world. It really delved into it and made you think like you could be whatever you want, and the world is as big and expansive as you want it to be. Morrowind was the first game in the franchise that made it really stand out from all the other dungeon crawlers. Gave it its own unique lore, one of the best stories I think I've ever seen in the entire franchise, and dare I say, in gaming in general. Its alien and unique culture, with its mixture of unique visuals and creatures and culture, is just amazing. The Dunmer of Morrowind, mixed with the amazing story of the Daedra and Dagoth-Ur and the Heart of Lorkhan in the world, is just what makes the game's lore so rich. And that's what made Morrowind great. Oblivion was a step in the door for most people, as it was one of the first games to be expertly ported over to the console. For, like myself, it was one of the first games I'd ever played with an open world that made you do, or let you do, whatever you want. You weren't bound to anything. And for most people, like I said, for me, who has never played an open world and only played linear game design and linear stories before, it was the most mind-opening and mind-blowing thing I had ever experienced in a video game. With Oblivion's charm, its beautiful visuals, its wonderful music, and its unique and expertly crafted, I suppose you could say, simplification of a complicated formula, and allowed a lot of newer people to get into it, was definitely what made Oblivion unique. And Skyrim is just so replayable and just so accessible, and it's everywhere, and just so well done that you just keep wanting to go into it. Even you'll take breaks, but you'll keep coming back to it, and that's what makes it unique. I think that the Elder Scrolls is amazing for pulling off this unique world. And I hope you all agree with that. There's a reason that we love these games so much, and it's because, honestly, they kind of built up a lot of our childhoods. They entertained us, they told us a story, and they made us feel like we had our own. You buy a copy of Skyrim, and if you're a if you're a gamer, and you play these games for hundreds of hours, you start to feel like a little attached to these, don't you? And that's the beauty of it. These are your games. And sure, they have flaws, but we still love them nonetheless. And no matter how much you might criticize the franchise, I think that's the thing that we all love about it. And that's really all I have to say about why I like the Elder Scrolls. That was how I first got into it, and that's why I liked it, and that's why I think each game is unique. Whether you started with Arena, or Daggerfall, or Morrowind, or Oblivion, or Skyrim, whether you played the spin-offs like Redguard or Battlespire, whether you played Elder Scrolls Online, or if you're just getting into it for the first time, I think we can all agree that this game, this series, this franchise is probably one of the most important ones that's ever been in the gaming community. And I honestly couldn't imagine being a gamer like I am and playing video games as much as I do and not playing Elder Scrolls. This is my favorite franchise, and I will say that confidently and without hesitation. I love the Elder Scrolls, and that's why. If you guys agree, let me know. Tell me your stories. I want to hear how you got into the Elder Scrolls and why you love this series so much. The Elder Scrolls is 25 years old, guys. That's amazing. Not many game franchises last that long. Sure, there's Nintendo stuff, and there's Pokemon, and again, Nintendo. And there's a lot of other stuff like Doom. But the Elder Scrolls is fantasy, and open world, and exploration, and I don't think any other game has managed to really emulate making it feel like it's your story as much as the Elder Scrolls has. So yes, tell me your stories. How did you get into it? What was your first game in the franchise? Why do you love these games, and which one is your favorite? Let me know down in the comment section, because I want to hear it all. This is the day, and this is the time where we should all really be looking to the Elder Scrolls and remembering why we love it so much. So yes, this has been Infinity Break, reminding you all to say it with me now. Play well, eat well, and of course live well, friends. I hope you guys go out there and strive to break infinity, and I hope you guys have an excellent day. Yeah. Happy 25th anniversary, Elder Scrolls. Thank you so much.